Welcome to the free audio rendering of Not Without Scars 2. Such an insightful and impactful work must be accessible to the countless number of people living similar life experiences. Becoming a best-selling author pales in comparison to creating a tool capable of instilling hope in a multitude of people trapped in the valley of decision. My greatest profit comes in helping others emerge victorious over their life struggles. My goal is to encourage individuals to follow their dream. My message: you must never quit on your faith, pursuing your aspiration or vision. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Take a moment, invite your family, friends, and acquaintances and enemies to listen to this work chapter by chapter. It is free to listen as well as free to subscribe. Peace, love, and phenomenal blessing.
How do I write my life story? I know hurt and pain. I don't like either one, whether physical or emotional. Herein contains my story, Not Without Scars, Part 2. Optimism, perseverance, persistence, resilience. 2 decades of personal struggle. Optimism. I faced the new millennium with hopefulness. Perseverance. My ego, my humble beginnings, my desire to achieve never allow me to turn away from a difficult task. Persistence. Opposition should be anticipated as an effective strategy to victory surfaces. Resilience. Difficulties do not automatically spell termination. Scars reveal my imperfection as reminders of past episodes of pain, sorrow, or triumph. Scars can tell beautiful story endings or relay misery that wishes to remain anonymous. This work is meant to help others who have experienced decades of struggle. When struggles appear to never end, you must get through the night and face the challenge of a new dawn with fresh hope.
Chapter 24, The Dashed Hopes. Introduction. My hopes began a downward spiral from the moment that I realized that I would have to begin life all over, starting from a halfway house. This was not a venture unfamiliar, but certainly one that I did not care to repeat. Fate, or the breaks in life, had violently smashed my initial vision of my return to a free society. Suddenly, I was hurled into a reality where those for whom I had high expectations shunned my appearance. The Reverend Mark C appeared as someone to be disconnected or disassociated. The hope of my ideas being eagerly accepted and rapidly integrated into the fabric of change in Cleveland was violently and vehemently rejected. I constantly asked myself, what the hell did I do to these people? I had a problem with the United States government, the Internal Revenue Service. My hopes of giving to the people in leadership fresh ideas to build upon were met by staunch opposition as if I was a plague. I was confronted by and dealing with a pain that I had not foreseen: rejection. I had not envisioned being alone in Glenville, without family and those I had counted on for supporting the community. This was an aloneness that I had not felt in many years. It hurt. It hurt deeply. Would I overcome this miserable feeling? Sure. This was one of the many battles that you have to fight to win the war. The ambush was not fatal, but it had cost me valuable time and depleted my resources. It was my miscalculation of what I meant to others that opened the door for the ambush and the wounds that incurred. Just as I had accepted the full responsibility for the road to incarceration, I accept the ambush of rejection that allowed others to invade my life. Now, I alone had to deal with the fallout. Humiliation really came from the mayor's office. Frank initially gave me a job cutting grass and vacant lots. After this seasonal job ended, I was offered a part-time job cleaning a recreational center, cleaning toilets. I reject this offer as the ultimate disrespect and disregard for who I was and my capacity to make a meaningful contribution to the community. I saw this as the most violent attack against me in years. It stung more than a dozen slaps in the face. I could not and would not think of any form of retaliation. I accepted it, decided to move on with my life, restructuring and improvising as I took one day and one step at a time. Is this what it meant to get old? People could say to me whatever they wanted without any fear of reprisal. Meanwhile, I had to deal with 3 years of post-release supervision. I had to complete every day of my sentence, then face 3 years of control for a crime already paid in full. It seemed everywhere I turned, people reminded me of what had already occurred. It was wherever I went, people were quick to act as a judge and add their little bit of punishment to further injure me. I was constantly reminded that pulpits were not open to me, community forums were off limits, and individual disdain had heaped upon me without compassion. After this profound ambush, I had no intention of sitting around moping and awaiting another vicious round of attacks. Neither would I sit idle and lick my wounds without the will to build upon the lessons gained from this unexpected and unplanned for battle. Hope had to be rekindled. Historical. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Maya Angelou. When nothing happens. Had all the inspiring sermons that I had delivered over the years been forgotten? Or were these messages perceived as mere flowery words for the moment? To some, you might fit as the appropriate answer, but certainly not to all. Dash hopes would never serve as a methodology to undo my courage to face overwhelming odds or vaunted foes. If no one else believed the message, I had to believe what I preached and set in motion my practice of those words. I could not dismiss the echo of my own voice as meaningless. Every word that I had ever rehearsed about my future, my prosperity, my health, and my fulfilling every aspect of the vision was birthed in my spirit. I had to act as I was invincible to all external attacks. I had to implement into my daily repertoire of action that no weapon formed against me would prosper, and every tongue that would dare rise against me would be condemned. I had no other choice but to put on the whole armor of God and proceed as a mighty warrior. I would not be discouraged and definitely not defeated by small-minded people who could at best make some small contribution, yet demand monumental returns on what they rendered. Had all the benevolent programs and acts of kindness vanished from the minds of the people? To many people that would be the case, but definitely not to all. The loud and boisterous had been given the megaphone, but they did not certainly represent the majority opinion. Countless times I encountered people who I had not seen for a while, and they would almost always respond, "You look good." It was delivered as if they expected to see a broken shell of myself. This was due to the people with the megaphone authoring a narrative describing my pearl in such a negative way to discredit who I was. I came to realize that my appearance was a vivid testimony of my resilience without having to say a word. I simply had to remain true to who I was, Mark Carvin, MCOs, with or without a title. It was imperative that I did not deviate from being myself and striving to fulfill the vision that fueled my zeal for life. Had I made everyone of whom I had encountered feel awful? Perhaps to some, I had been guilty in their eyes, or they had a perception of a bad encounter with me. Certainly, compassion and kindness toward me had all but evaporated from most people with whom I had personally interacted. The recollection of others with a negative view would not serve as the balance for the positive influence experienced by others. I had long since stopped keeping a scorecard. My actions were either well intended or not worth the undertaking. Therefore, I had no need to keep score. The action was performed without a selfish motive. Therefore, any recall would serve no purpose, pro or con. When nothing happened, I had to do something, or at the very least, I had to do something else. For me, when nothing happened, I charged myself to do more. Sitting idle while the world twisted its noose about my neck was an asinine view of life. Such a view of life would only mean that there was not much life left to live. I knew that was not the case with me. I had to dig into the well of wisdom and draw up the bucket of creativity and move zealously forward. There was not a bright side somewhere, but there was a bright day one wake up away. There will always appear a Darrell and Beverly Gaffney to extend an invitation for Thanksgiving. They would understand my vegan diet and go off their traditional menu to make sure that I had more than enough to enjoy. Dashed hopes do not mean a dashed, broken, or diminished life has to manifest. Social, Black experience. Start where you are with what you have, make something of it, and never be satisfied. George Washington Carver. What's next when you have wobbly legs? Start where you are rings as somewhat of a rhetorical comment as well as a well-intended inspiration. No matter how big or how small, whether you do something or sit still, it commences where you are. A little more thought is required in order for me to launch into an adventure or an endeavor. From the perch of where you are, there must include a time for healing. If you have been wounded, and I speak from experience, the cells of the heart, mind, and body need to recoup strength. Starting a fresh journey from the vantage point of lesser power than an opponent, a complete overhaul of mind and body, emotions and feelings have to be assured. I had to have my thirst quenched before attempting to cross another desert. What do you do when you start from where you are? It is usually not enough. With a made up mind that where you are will consume you, the alternative option, dictate a change of status, is imperative. Entrenched in my psyche was the aspiration that what I needed could be discovered once I had a strategy to pursue. Do something with what you have. This required an internal inventory. I had also needed to physically lay out what I had to work with. What was my product? I now had published material. I held the ability within my capacity to change the narrative that was spoken about me. The vision was for days to come, but it addressed the needs the people faced on a daily routine. Most of all, I could not stop thinking, creating, and planning. More so, I could not stop strategizing. Regardless of what others thought or designated leaders espoused, I could never stop seeing the vision inclusive of all people. I must never allow myself to compile two lists, one for those who helped me and one for those who did not. The moment that I permitted my energy to proceed along with such duality, I would have defeated my own purpose. This would lead to my shipwrecking my own vision and future. I could never permit myself to settle or be satisfied until I had exhausted all that is within me to succeed and bring to fruition the dream within my bosom. I could not see myself consenting to acquiesce to what would deliver me personal comfort while abandoning the struggle for my people. My role does not have to be the standard bearer or the bellwether. It does have to inscribe a message that I will not give up in my efforts to serve in a worthwhile cause. What's next when you have wobbly legs? Pray, fast, hope, strategize, and keep the body physically fit. I would not be able to walk through 20 years of struggle without being physically fit. I am thankful for divine mercy that I have not been physically ill. I am also sensitive to the Holy Spirit for inspiring me to take the steps that I can do to maintain my physical and mental well-being. How to deal with people who feel it necessary to destroy another to feel an uplift in personal value. I forgive. I pray. I look beyond their narrow-mindedness. And I accept that changes in my attitude and approach to life can always use some spiritual correction and guidance. Plus, the journey that I have embraced did not afford me the energy to get sidetracked by hating anyone. In essence, I truly believe that all things are working together for my good. Theological. Behold, you have made my days as short as handbreadths, and my lifetime is as nothing in your sight. Truly, every man at his best is merely a breath. Selah. Pause and think calmly of that. Psalm 39:5, Amplified Bible Classic Edition. End is not in sight. Life has been a myriad of episodes crammed into a short span of time. The decades have turned as quickly as a week. I've learned the preciousness of a moment. Life can turn on a moment. Now, I can value a moment wherein time past I did not acknowledge that their meaning or existence. So it can be with the people with whom I have had occasion to interact, whether for a moment or a lifetime. Their appearance in my life have valued significance. My shallowness may have caused me to miss the deeper penetration of the experience, or I did not recognize that a moment can hold a value that lasts a lifetime. As I sought to rebuild my life, I recognized that at my very best, it was only for a flash. Now I regret not doing more with the platform from which I had been assigned for the instant. Once again, I pushed for the stage with a clearer understanding that it will only be for a moment. So I must be totally prepared to make my statement, impact, and visionary pronouncement in the space of a twinkling. I think very calmly for the end for me is not in sight because I now understand and comprehend the essence of a moment. Longevity has fresh meaning. Understanding the moment, I could be of a greater service than wandering in the world for 4 decades. The end of a life's journey could never be in sight when you view each moment as a precious capsule of time, one moment away from eternity.